Okay, in this video clip, I'm going to show you standing internal shoulder rotation exercise. In this clip in particular, I'm going to be demonstrating using a cable, but you can absolutely substitute the cable if you don't have it available for using tubing or using a rubber band. Now, there are a couple of key pieces to this exercise which are important, and one of them we want to start with is how high you set the cable or the tubing where you anchor it. Okay, when we move our shoulder into internal and external rotation, something that's important is that our arm does not sit vertical inside of the socket. So we don't have our arm like this when we rotate our arm in and out. The normal anatomical position, if I put my hands down like this, you're going to notice that my arm moves slightly off to the side. Now, this is important to understand as to why we set up the exercises the way that we do. So when we do internal shoulder rotation, okay, if our arm is down, we limit the amount of rotation that we have in the shoulder. But if we move my arm slightly off to the side, I have a greater degree of motion. And it's going to help isolate more of the muscles that are rotating the shoulder rather than the muscles that tend to extend the elbow. So the first thing we want to do is to make sure that we set up our anchor, if you're using tubing or band, in the correct height. In this case, I'll be using the cable. And right here, my arm, you're going to see, is approximately, or the cable is set up approximately the same height as my shoulder. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab onto that handle. Now, it's important to understand also when you're using rotation-based exercises for the shoulder, a lot of times this is the case with the hip, you do not need to use too much weight in the beginning. You want to isolate and perform the exercise correctly, get the right muscles working, and then slowly progress forward. So I'm going to use a lighter weight to begin with to ensure optimal form. Now, another key piece to this is how we align ourselves with our resistance point. The greatest degree of resistance is going to be when the weight is parallel, or I should say perpendicular to the limb that we're moving. In this case is going to be the arm. So we don't want to have the cable behind us. So if I was standing like this doing my exercise, or if I was standing too much like this doing the exercise, okay? So I've got to be aware of my angle here. All right, so we want the greatest degree of resistance to be so that when the arm is going straight ahead, that's where it's going to be. Okay, so in this position, I'm always going to balance my postural alignment. Okay, so my weight is going to go slightly back toward my heels. My chest is going to be upright. Okay, and then from there, I'm going to have relaxed shoulders. So I don't want my shoulders to be hugging around my ears, over recruiting some of those muscles. So the arm is going to be relaxed down. So from there, notice again that my elbow is not pinned at my side. It's kind of out to the side a little bit in a loose, comfortable position. From here, what I want to do is to pull my shoulder blade slightly back, just to activate the muscles on the back of my shoulder girdle, not squeezing them fully together. So again, there is a point here of doing too much. So keep it minimal, shoulder blade slightly back. Okay. Now from here, I want to have a nice firm grip, and I want to keep our wrist in a neutral position. We don't want to be flexing our wrist like this or letting it extend like that during the exercise. So we're in a neutral position, and then from there I'm going to rotate my arm inward with the intention of bringing my wrist right on top of my belly button. Now in this position you can see that my elbow angle is still at a 90-degree angle. It's not like this and it's not like this. And that's exactly where we want it, at 90 degrees. Okay, I pause for the designated amount of time, and I let that arm swivel right back out to the start position again. Okay, so here is again in normal speed, rotating in, pause, and then rotating it out. Okay, so quite simple, few key pieces. Make sure that the cable or the anchor is at the right height, which is roughly shoulder height. Okay, keeping that arm at 90 degrees and making sure that that wrist is in neutral. And the last piece, of course, is keeping that elbow slightly out to the side. Now, if you have a hard time keeping the elbow in the right spot and your arm is wagging all over the place, then you can easily grab a towel and roll it up so it's fairly thick and place it up underneath the armpit. Okay? Now, what this is going to do is give us something to hold our arm in against and create a nice little space there, but to help stabilize the arm while we do our exercise. Okay? So using a towel roll makes things quite simple. You're not going to be careful about rolling it up too much, and of course if it's too thin, then it's going to jam the arm down in here. So a nice towel roll, probably about rolled twice like a bath towel, will work just fine for this exercise. So there is our shoulder internal rotation exercise, in this case with a cable, but it works the same with tubing or a band.